Hello, this is intended to be a very small update video on me. As you can tell, I am still in the hospital. However, while I am still in the hospital, things have improved dramatically with my voice condition, as issues of both constipation and as well as vomiting have relieved themselves, and sort of my digestive tract has moved into a better place. The constant hiccuping has diminished, which means that I do have my voice back, which means that whenever I am discharged, even though that is before the surgery, that I very clearly will need to get rid of my PCN bag, as well as a number of other issues that I currently have. I'm still hooked up to a fair amount of machines, but thankfully they're not big machines. They're things I can carry with me. Even though it's not in this state, I'll still be able to work on the channel once I have access to my editing equipment. And I wanted to share with you guys, actually, one of the cooler things I'm thinking of doing with the Grimdark Star Wars project. And that's that I am going to be working on sectionalizing all the different Jedi and Sith groups that have existed over the years. So instead of having to choose a time period, you'll just get the best of all four real time periods. Like, for instance, one of the most iconic time periods of the Sith is what I call the Renaissance Sith. The Renaissance Sith was the time of Darth Plagueis and the time of, all the Sith in the shadows. They were still around. It was still like they were there. They were living in the shadows. And there were a countless number of protagonists and antagonists, and people who considered themselves the only Sith Lords, the rule of two, things of that nature. And these people would meet and try to kill each other all the time, But it's something that no one thinks of. And it's something that no one really hits on, but people love that. You've read Darth Plagueis, you love the idea of a secret agent, sleeper Sith Lord, and that's what we have with the Renaissance Sith. And then likewise, we have, I don't know which Jedi would be more interesting to show you. I think all the Jedi are interesting. I'm a Jedi guy, I'm a pretty boring guy, like I love the Loyalists and the Space Marines and 40K, and I love the, I love the Jedi in Star Wars, but when it comes right down to it, we have the old Jedi, which are going to be like the Jedi, which are going to be like the pragmatic but also highly hierarchical Jedi, who are maybe a bit lackluster in their control over the dark versus light side force mechanics, but are very harsh in their hierarchical structure and military structure. And then we'll also have the High Jedi, and the High Jedi will be very similar to the prequel Jedi, the Jedi who stood for 1,000 years, etc., etc. And a good way to contextualize that, think of it as Orthodox versus Catholic churches. And then we move into the New Jedi, sort of a Protestant Luke Skywalker's New Jedi Order, because, of course, like we said, there's nothing Disney about what we do here. So, obviously, Luke Skywalker's New Jedi Order is what happens, not the creepy, weird, Disney sequel trilogy stuff, obviously. So, that's what's done there. And then after that, we also have an interesting concept called Wild Jedi. And you know what? Actually, after this, I'll just go over the three different types of Sith, the other three different types besides Renaissance Sith. But those of Wild Jedi. Wild Jedi are a pretty cool concept. Basically, it means that you come from a Jedi family, but your training was very free range, in the sense that you literally grew up with parents who were on the run, in part because one of your parents were a Jedi. And the reason you grew up on the run is because you were survivors of Order 66, and that tradition started down your line. So even if we were playing far into the future here, the tradition of being a new Jedi or a wild Jedi runs in your blood, and you are someone who is just as much a survivalist as you are this warrior monk. And you do this because you believe that no fundamental group. So basically, their differences with the Jedi here are how they view coming together, because you have the old Jedi, which are very hierarchical, very militant. You have the High Jedi, who are more puritanical, I think, more hyper light side focused. And then you have the New Jedi. The New Jedi are very much these kinds of, I don't know, how would you describe them? They're very much a more free-form group, but still come together. Like I said, the Protestant Jedi, they still come together at church, but at the end of the day, they more or less are set free to do their own thing, their own works. This is why even their stances, right? All these other Jedi from the past, they have these very specific stances. They have these very specific martial flow of the Naimans, the Makashis, these things. But instead, with the New Jedi Order, they have the light, medium, and heavy stances, right? And then we have the Wild Jedi, which are these, warriors in just rapid skill succession. But moving on to the Sith, just to close things off, what we have with the Sith are just kinds of these. We have the Darth, which is the original rule of two, all the way back then. Then we have the Dark Lords. Then we have the Darth, but many, which is the Renaissance. And then we have the one Sith, which is more hierarchical, but at the same time, in that same way, more liberal in terms of how many Sith there can be, because the way the one Sith philosophy dealt with it is that they turned Sith Lord into the Sith equivalent of a Jedi Grand Master, where that's kind of where you sit, but there are billions of Sith beneath you. So the one Sith has always been the Sith trying to have their cake and eat it too, and that's what that is. So the one Sith there, the Renaissance Sith, which are just basically, again, still Darth, and really you have 3 different flavors of Darth, which is really what's beautiful about that. But you have the Renaissance Sith, which is Darth but in secret. So that's very interesting how Renaissance Sith could play with other Sith. And then in addition to that, before that, you have the Dark Lords, obviously, which are again about coexistence, but a very tenuous political backstabbing coexistence, not founded under one order, which would be very interesting to see how they interplay with the one Sith. And then then all the way back, you have the Darth, which is the true Darth. It's like to the point where they are honestly rule of two. They're not in secret. They're public, and they're going to hunt you down. I would love to see how what key figures I could put there to make those more powerful. But that's what that is. So I'm giving you my update on the hospital. I am getting healthier. I am getting stronger in terms of me overcoming the side effects of what ultimately was the medication they were giving me in the first place. But in addition to that, I'm also not really, because I had the biopsy, so we still don't have the results from biopsy. And also I gave you my update on what I'm planning to do with the Jedi and Sith in here, and I have space for it in the journal. I had set aside pages, so that's really all I got. Thank you all for listening. I look forward to the rest of my voice coming back and being able to talk to all of you once again. Have a lovely night.